What is going on, guys? It's Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. Today is going to be a great show. We have, of course, this very special guest tonight. Alaska Prepper will be with us tonight. Also, we will have calls at 224-400-MARF. So make sure to tune in. We'll be right back with all of the current events, plus a very, very special guy. We'll be right back right after this. Nothing in this show should be considered legal, medical, or financial advice. The views of the callers can differ considerably and do not necessarily reflect my opinion, Dex's opinion, or anyone else who works with the show. You should always do your own research and consult with professionals. The internet is full of fake news, so please take everything with a grain of salt. If you have not already, it helps us out if you end up going through any of our affiliates, and it helps you out if you end up protecting yourself against cybercrime. NordVPN is one of the best and one of the easiest to use. If you do not have a virtual private network, it protects your IP address, which is your online identity, which actually connects to your real address and everything else. It also connects to you. If you know anything about how they are data logging and basically getting your profiles down, you can prevent that by having a VPN. Nord is, again, one of the easiest. Download it. It's like an on switch and off switch. All you have to do. Go to marfooglenews.com/VPN. Not only will you get a giant discount on this, but you will also be helping us. I appreciate your support, and I appreciate everyone that goes through any of our affiliates. Can't say thank you enough.
First days after the fall, all I need is all of y'all. First days after the fall, all I need is all of y'all. First days after the fall, all I need is all of y'all.
All right, what is going on, guys? It is Adam, a.k.a. Marf, and this is Marfoogle News. If you've never been here before, this is a live show, so we're going to talk about everything that is going on right now, and it is a call-in today. So that means if you've been waiting to call in and share your story, your sighting, your information, then call us tonight at 224-400-6273. That number is also going to be down right below. That is also 224-400-MARF. Make sure to press option 4 once you get to our phone tree to get Dex live. Speaking of Dex, let's bring in Dex early because he's going to be bouncing on the phones back and forth. My co-host / internet brother, Dex James, what is going on and how are you doing tonight?
Well, hello, Adam, and hello, Foogle fam. I'm doing just fine.
And on deck, we have a very special guest. We'll introduce him in just a moment. But first, I do want to remind everyone, if you have never been here before, no matter what we show you, whether it be a picture, a document, a tweet, an article, a archived document, it's all going to be over on our website. We make a full bibliograph so you actually have access to everything at your fingertips. Today, you will look for today's thumbnail, the first 3 days after the fall with Alaska Prepper. And then once you click on that, you'll see we have a full bibliography of every single article, tweet, video, picture, document there. That way you have exact information of where this is coming from, what the source is. That way you are informed and you know where it came from. So also there's giveaways right now with the off-grid bag. Make sure to go check that out. And there's also deals on all of our affiliate products. Again, those affiliate products keep this show going, especially when you're covering controversial things. So thank you, everybody that does go through those. I appreciate it greatly. All right, let's get straight into the news, and then we're going to bring in a very special guest here in just a moment. And Alaska Prepper is actually going to be on. Dex, in... Again,
yep.
We've got Alaska Prepper online.
Yes, he's ready.
All right, so Alaska Prepper, if you've not met him, if you have not seen his channel, he is one of the channels that I have told you almost on a nightly basis to go over and see because of his payday preps. He actually does a really great thing called payday preps. He, of course, for when he started it, he would get his paycheck every 2 weeks, and what he would do is he would do a video on how he was actually going to affordably spend money, just putting a tiny bit aside to actually gain a great amount of preps, basically the best bang for your buck. But that is one of the things that drove his channel to grow very quickly. I have watched since, I believe the first time I remember he was under 10,000. Now he has over 154,000 subscribers. Very, very, very sweet man. This gentleman, in fact, a while back, during CV, the very beginning of it, just to tell you before he even comes on, I had a neighbor that did not know what we did not know what our situation was. And again, everybody was going through a rough time, but they knew we had multiple small children. In fact, we just had our baby and we had our 1-year-old at the time. So we had a 1-year-old and a fresh baby. They didn't know what our situation was, but they probably didn't see us. Again, we have a divider, so they didn't see what we do or what anything happens. They thought, instead of thinking for us or for themselves, that they were all servers. And I told you guys about this. They were servers at a restaurant that essentially cut everybody. For 4 months, they were not working. And for the period that they were doing this, they had no income whatsoever. They didn't know how they were going to pay the rent. Every single person that lives in this house did not have an income. And they were forced not to work. In the restaurant business, a lot of people were. They ended up getting extra food and stuff like this, and they had boxes of food from a service. Well, they actually, every time they would get it, they would bring us whatever, they would basically split it and put it on our porch. And at first I actually didn't know, and then they came over and they said, well, we know you have babies. So they brought us milk, they brought us all the different things, and they even brought us formula. They asked for specifically. So when they did that, it was very, very sweet. And of course, the second box we gave back. At that time. We actually had food, so we didn't want to take anything out of their mouths. So what ended up happening is Alaska Prepper ended up, I ended up talking to her, and she said, hey, she's been watching lots of videos and lots of online content about prepping. And I said, who's your favorite? And she goes, Alaska Prepper. I said, I know him personally. I said, I'll say something. So Alaska Prepper ended up surprising her with basically a shout out, and he was currently doing sort of a giveaway, and he ended up, for her generosity and her sweetness, ended up basically telling everybody like, hey, these are for giveaway and this one is for a very special person, and gave her a generator. One of the sweetest things ever. It was like a $300 or $400 or $500 generator, and he just gave it to her. Very, very sweet man. And that's, again, partly why I mentioned the channel that he had on last night. That was somebody he believes in, all day, every day preparedness. I think that we should be pushing everybody up, not pushing people down. This man is genuinely the same on and off camera. I could talk to him for hours again, but I thought, man, it would be great to have him on. He knows a whole lot of information. Let's get you on. Alaska Prepper, are you there, and how are you doing?
Adam, how you doing? Can you hear me?
We can. So I'm very.
All right. I'm doing great, man. I'm doing great. Thank you for inviting me.
I'm honored to have you, man. So I thought, and we didn't really talk. We kind of talked about this on one of our hour-long conversations over the past. But I kind of wanted to talk about the first 3 days after, and actually 3 days came from you. That was your opinion on basically what I said is when this does go down, if something bad goes down, if it really hits the fan, that you said it would take about 3 days for people really to realize what has gone down. So I thought it would be interesting if we kind of continue that conversation and kind of talk about what this whole scenario might look like, and have you talk about what you are very knowledgeable about as far as the food shortages and everything else. I thought this would be a very interesting conversation. So first of all, say anything that you want to get off your chest, first of all, about what's going on right now and who you are and whatever you want to say. You've got the mic.
All right. Well, again, thank you for inviting me, Adam. It's really an honor to come on your show, man. Obviously, we've known each other for, I don't know how many, 4 years now, 3.5, 4 years. So it's really an honor to come on your show. And I mean, I really shouldn't have to talk too much about what's going on in the world and why people should be preparing for anything. Not for the end of the world, not for a meteor, but for anything. It could be as little as the breadwinner in your house losing their job. It could be as big as if we do have a worldwide conflict and everything is being rationed and you only have what the government allows you to have. So it could be for anything. So what's going on in the world right now, people should be able to see with their eyes, hey, I need to be prepared just in case, because anything can happen. And the things that are happening now, they're just not good things. By nature, I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I like to live in reality. And the reason for that is because I have a responsibility. I have a responsibility to my family to ensure that in any I can provide for them the standard of living that they've been living already. So if they're used to eating every day, I want them to continue to be able to eat every day and not put myself in a position where I have to tell my family, I don't know where our next meal is going to come from, and I don't know what I'm going to do. And then in turn, having to do something bad in order to feed my children, in order to feed my family. And I mean, that's just a very minor point as to all of the things that's going on. It could be so many more things. As preparedness-minded individuals, the first thing that we always tell people, make sure that you start with water. Make sure that you start with food, shelter, heat, a way to cook your food, basic things like that. If the average person in the United States just did that, imagine how much more power as a people we would have when the government per se tells us do this, and we don't want to do that. We could just say no. Look back at the last couple of years. How many people have lost their jobs? I actually had a community member email me and tell me, you know what, I'm going to lose my job on the 4th of January because I won't do something that the government wants me to do, but I don't care because I'm prepped. So think of how much power you afford yourself if you are prepared. You don't have to bend to the will of someone else. But I mean, we can talk for hours about all of the reasons why you should be prepared. But the main reason is this, is do you love your family? Do you want them to suffer? Do you want them to go without? I would assume that everyone's answer to that would be, yes, I love my family. No, I don't want them to suffer. No, I don't want them to go without. So then you have to start preparing. And there are many facets in the realm of preparedness. But, you know, if you start with just expanding your pantry, getting a water supply, replacing the energy needs that you have with a backup, those are the beginning steps. And those are the steps that I would say about 95% of the people in the United States have not even achieved. Just a simple generator can literally save your life.
So
I'll go ahead and stop there, Adam, because I'll take over the show if you let me.
No. That's fine. And honestly, trust me, I've been thinking about all sorts of things about integrating all sorts of different creators and have this be a variety show and everything else. And I really do want to have more guests on and more people like you. The thing is when we talk on the phone just normally, me and you have talked about some of the scenarios that have played out and some of the things that are going on right now. And what I don't think we can exactly replicate is just how we talk to each other normally when we're not on online or whatever. But I will say this: it's really quite shocking to see that most people are not prepared. And what was the stat you threw out there yesterday of how many people people have an average of 3 days of food in their refrigerator? Is that not just terrifying to you that that most people are not going to be prepared?
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is that we've been spoiled. At least I can only speak for the United States of America, but more so also most Western nations, you know, that are developed nations. We've been spoiled by technology, whereas about 100 years ago or so, most people in the United States, there were, I think it was about 90% or so of the people in the United States were pretty self-reliant. They had their own gardens. Most of them had their own farms. That was like one of the biggest occupations in the U.S. was farming. They were preppers by nature. They didn't have to call themselves preppers because that was just the way of life for them. Whereas now with machinery, with technology, we've reduced the amount of farms in the United States to only about a little over 2 million farms in the United States, which when you think about it, that's really not an awful lot when you're feeding 330 million people in addition to exporting foods to other countries. So we've been spoiled with technology, and many people don't even know where their food comes from. Go ahead and ask one of your friends, what is a wheat berry? They'll be like, a wheat berry, what is that? Well, a wheat berry is what is used to make flour, to make your bread and things like that. That's what a wheat berry is, but most people don't even know where that is. Most people don't even know where their food comes from. All they know is that they can go to a supermarket and they can pick up whatever it is that they want to eat. And they don't understand that the just-in-time supply system that we have, as we've seen how well it works over the last 2 years, right? That it's really just in time, that if once those things are off the shelf, if you don't have a tractor trailer backing up to a bay to replenish those items, they're not going to appear. So most people don't understand that we live in a just-in-time system where if anything in the chain breaks, it's not going to appear on the shelf. Well, all we need is one major systemic crisis to occur. It could be anything from what so many people talk about EMPs, they talk about cyber attacks. There could be a major earthquake that cuts the United States in half. Whatever it may be, all we need is one major crisis to occur. And that just-in-time system is going to falter. It's going to break. And people live with about 3 to 5 days worth of food in their house. What are they going to do when that food runs out and there's no food in the supermarket? I read a statistics once about New York City. In New York City, there's about, I think, roughly 8 million people. There's 9 days of food in New York City. So if something happens where the supply system is cut off from New York City, they have 9 days of food. Can you imagine what kind of violence and bad stuff would be going on in New York on that 10th day when there's absolutely no food left and no way to get food into the city? Because cities by nature, concrete jungles by nature, they don't produce anything of value. Sure, you have the stock market, you have, advertising firms, you have banksters and all that kind of stuff. But does that really produce real value that can allow you to keep on living? No, it doesn't. It produces fake value, which I like to call paper value. Anything that's on paper is really fake. You don't own it. It's just on paper. But it doesn't produce any real value, anything that brings value to your life. So imagine what would happen in a crowded city like that after they run out of food. That's why it's important to be prepared.
So I briefly want to just hit a couple topics right now. I found another great channel. So once you suggested all day, every day preparedness, I found his channel, of course. We shouted them out. I hope that a lot of people went over and visited him. But also, once I typed his name in, I found 3 or 4 channels I've never seen. And they're bigger. Some were bigger than myself. Some were at 160,000 subscribers. Never have seen them. Never have been recommended them. That tells me something. It's just crazy that this niche is small in a way compared to the bigger picture of YouTube. But the algorithm is not sharing with us great people that can teach us stuff. There was a channel with a woman preparing for survival. She ended up talking, and she has been updating the diesel situation. She's in an RV on vacation. She's driving down, and she's physically updating. All of the Tom Thumbs are out of the diesel, and instead of $5.96 per gallon, the Tom Thumbs, which were cheaper at $4.86, all of them were out. So she was wondering if it was either because the diesel is just gone or because it was the cheaper gas station. But then updated on the more expensive side. It's just diesel is disappearing, and it's one of the things in that chain you were talking about. If one thing breaks, it can break the whole thing. And now they're telling us, the president told us we would see a massive food shortage, and now it's beginning. And most people are completely in the dark about this. Not only that, of course, they were talking about all of the different things that are going on with gas prices. I mean, you put $50 in your tank and you don't even get a half a tank anymore. This is insanity. This is what we prepared for, and now it's happening, and people are still saying, oh, yeah, sure, this is all fear-mongering. Think about it.
Yeah, Adam, I'll tell you what, that fear-mongering thing, I mean, I'm immune to that by now, but I don't understand how the average person cannot see what's going on. The President of the United States, in a national forum, said, yes, we are going to have a food shortage crisis. I think it was about 2 years ago. Actually, I remember the date, August 21st, 2020, I put a video up of a congressman, I believe his last name was Scott, of a congressman saying in Congress, we are going to go into a food shortage. This was 2 years ago this August. I remember putting that video up, a congressman saying we are going to have a food shortage if we don't do something now. And then the president says it. And then I just put up a video a couple of days ago where the World Bank, the president of the World Bank, said that we will have a food shortage that will last at least 3 years. There will be famine, and we can lose as much as 800 million to 1 billion people. And your average citizen doesn't even pay attention to that. They don't care. As long as they can go to Walmart and get their Cheetos or Doritos and their Mountain Dew, they are happy. But the problem is that all of the things that are required to make those Cheetos and the Mountain Dew, they are going to be in very short supply, which means two things: that prices are going to continue to go up, where it's going to take a person or a family most of their income just to live, just to buy food, to pay rent, and pay for their utilities. And when that happens, history tells us that a lot of bad things happen when people have to pay most of their income just to live. They go out in the streets and they do bad things. But the average person will not listen to this reasoning. And that is going to be the person that after 3 days will be panicking and will be rushing the supermarkets and will be and won't know where their next meal is coming from. You see, a lot of people think that preppers are crazy, but really what's crazy about wanting to avoid the violence instead of being part of the violence? Because I'll tell you what, during the mad rush of March 2020, during the mad rush for toilet paper, I wasn't hitting an old lady over the head with a box of toilet papers. I was here in my living room watching other people do it on YouTube. So it's not the people that are prepared that are the problem. It is those that wait until the last minute to prepare that are the problem. And I just wish that our message can get out more, farther and wider, because if people would only use their reasoning power, they would understand that, listen, right now, even though things are expensive, right now, things are still relatively good because there are still things on the shelf. The problem is that everything that we see coming down the pipeline tells us that it's not going to be the case going forward. And it's not just us crazy preppers saying it. It's the president, it's congressmen, it's the president of the World Bank. It's people who know what they're talking about. And also the president of the World Food Organization said the same thing just a couple of months ago. So it's people that know what they're talking about. It's their job. And here we are. We've been parroting this for the last several years. And here it is. And people still don't want to listen. So I believe that what it comes down to is the law of natural selection, I guess.
Well, and so that's another point that I want to hit. So just say any one of these situations happens. So right now, just currently, not only do we have the gas, we have the poultry, we have the meat issues going on, we have the supply chain issues going on. There are folks going out and seeing these containers and saying that they're not moving anywhere. We've had people in California send us and they said, hey, you remember all those containers that were sitting there? They're still sitting there. They just pulled the boats around the corner so people wouldn't see and reporters would stop showing up. As far as that goes. And then you have Vlad going into UKR, that whole situation. You have, of course, Xi and Taiwan. You have in the Middle East, you have, of course, Is and I ran to the store. All of those countries going off the major hot points. Then you have NK and SK. When you take all this in, it's like, oh, this is really overwhelming. But when you take it one step at a time and you start thinking about these scenarios, and that's kind of why I thought that this would be good to talk about, is so it happens. Have you practiced it through? Just like anything else, if you're playing basketball, if you're going to dribble, do you forget how to dribble? I mean, you can get rusty, but you remember because you have muscle memory. The same thing goes for prep. We all need to start practicing. But also, I wanted to ask you, so just say, let me put a hypothetical out there. we already have some of these things already happening. But say, hypothetically, our grid goes down for some reason, mysterious reason, nobody knows. It's kind of like the movie This Is How It Ends. We don't know yet if it's because of an asteroid or a solar flare or an EMP. The power goes out. What happens next? What do you think that landscape would look like in a situation like that? What do you think would happen, and how do you think it would play out?
Well, first of all, we have to realize that in a situation like that, the government is not going to be there to help you, period. In a situation like that, police officers or law enforcement, they're not going to be there to help you. They have families to take care of. They're going to go home and take care of their families. Same thing with first responders. You will be on your own, right? So now, as far as like people that are already prepared, I can speak for myself. The first 3 days, what am I going to be doing? The first day, I will probably be going out and trying to spend as much of my cash as I can, because businesses are still going to be taking cash because they think everything is going to be all right. I'm going to, I always advocate that you have some cash at home, at least 3 months worth of your expenses in cash at home, 3 months worth of your expenses in a bank. That way you can have, a hedge against each other should something happen. So the first day I'm going to go out and I'm going to try to, fill in all the gaps that I have in my preps, try to get as prepped up as I can. More than likely, I'll be getting more fuel than anything else. I'll try to get as much fuel as I can because I already have everything else that I need for a prolonged period of time. The second and third day, what I will be doing is working on security. I will be getting my MAG together, my community together, working a security plan, no in and out, making sure that we are going to be secure because in my opinion, and this is my opinion, I don't think there's really any right or wrong answer to this, but I feel that in a total grid down situation where there is no support from government or local government, that you're going to have to make it through the first 30 to 60 days. The first 30 to 60 days is when the hordes are going to be out and they're going to be desperate, and there's going to be fathers out there that will turn into animals. The nicest person you ever knew that was a father and would never hurt a fly will become an animal and will do things in order to be able to feed his family.
A preacher.
That he would have never thought of doing.
A preacher.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, exactly. Yes, absolutely. Because, we all want to survive. We are down to the core. We are animals, right? We are biological animals and we all want to survive. And whenever an animal is pushed to a corner, he or she or it will do anything that it needs to do in order to survive and for his or her lineage to survive. So we have to make it through the first 30 to 60 days. After that, you'll have to deal with the people that were prepared that are not good people. But those bad people like marauders, they'll eventually be thinned out as well.
Another thing to think about is your cash machines are not going to work, and like he said before,
absolutely.
So some people are hearing this, and I know when I first got into this, I did not have I was guaranteed negative $1.17 in my bank, and a prepper is telling me you have to have 3 months worth of money. Nobody has that right now. So that's why I've been pointing people to affordable, like payday preps and things like this. The thing is a lot of my prep is stuff that I have acquired through just getting an extra can every single time I go to the store, or getting just one can, even if it's $2. Yep, and it's grown, and I have an entire 3 shelves that I have separated, and those are all food just from the stuff that I got 1 can extra, or one. I have a whole thing of gallons and of water, and all of that is just the stuff that I grabbed as part of my own thing. And why I tell people this is because I did it myself. I didn't have any money, and I was trying to prep. And because if you watch a prepper, they're probably doing it because this is something they're doing in their own life. Nobody even, especially ones that get bigger on YouTube, there's a reason why they're good on it, and why people like watching them is because they're good at what they do and they know what they're talking about. Most people watch you because they know you're doing this and you are very good at it. As far as having 3 months of cash, that could seem like something, but you need to do the same thing. If you're working minimum wage and you're getting a $400 check and your rent is $400, then you have to figure out how you can make another income stream, even if it's $15, $20 a week, and try to put that aside because you're gonna need it.
Yep, I'll tell you what, Adam. You know, sometimes on my channel, I'll read some comments and I'll do a video or a live stream where I give a little bit of tough love, you know. And I've told people before, because I hear it, I see it on the comments often, and it's not that I don't have empathy. I do. You know, I care a lot for my fellow human being. But I hear a lot of people saying, I can't afford to do this. I can't afford to do that. And I'm like, how important is being prepared to you? If it's important enough, instead of telling yourself what you cannot do, you should tell yourself, what can I do in order to do this? Do I have to get a second job for 3 months or 6 months so that I can earn enough money to become prepared for X number of months or a year or more? I was so proud of one of our community members that she told me during a live stream once that she went ahead and got a job while her kids were in school doing DoorDash. And the money that she earned from doing that, she was using it to prep. And I'm like, that's the kind of attitude that you're supposed to have, is what can I do to get it? Don't make yourself a victim and say, I can't do it because of this or that. I have a community member who's an elderly lady. She loves to pressure can. She wanted extra money to prep. What did she do? She started teaching the young ladies around her community how to pressure can for $10 a session. And then by the time she knew it, she was having pressure canning parties where she was hosting 3 or 4 different couples and charging them to show them how to pressure can. Anyone can do it if they really want to do it. Now, I do understand that there are some people that may be disabled. They just cannot do it. And I understand that. And that's what family, church, and community is for. That's what those three pillars of support are for. It's for people like that, but not everyone is like that. I would say that most people are able to do it, but are stuck in somewhat of a victimhood mentality where they just find excuses on why they can't do it. And those people one day will understand that they will have to pay for the consequences of their inactions today, tomorrow.
Alaska,
and you know,
the people that say they don't have enough to get a can of chili a week or a can of rice or whatever it may be, a can of corn, but then they drink 7 days a week. They go to Starbucks.
Yeah.
Do you see what's wrong with that picture? You know what I mean? And I there's nothing against getting your Starbucks, but even if you just cut off one of those Starbucks a week or one of those coffees, or if you can find something that you can switch around, cut that out for even a week out of every month, and then try to use that towards something else. It's what all of us have done in parts of our life, and whether it be for prep or for to pay this bill, to pay that bill. If you have to rob Peter to pay Piper or something, you get what I'm saying though. You have to look at priorities, and right now. Yeah. People should be seeing what is happening is not, it's not all fluff. There's a lot of fluff out there. There's a lot of ganda going on. But the main thing, it really does feel like down under, there is something seriously wrong. Like things are about to change drastically. And whether that's an asteroid hitting Earth, an earthquake, an EMP, a hurricane, a tidal wave, whatever it may be, it seems like something, or a financial collapse. All of these things are kind of looming as possibilities, but in the reality, we look and we see our supply chain failing. We see our meat and our food. We see inflation, and they're trying to tell us it's okay. Because guess what happens when they don't tell us what's okay? So let me ask you this, Alaska. What happens when they tell us something is seriously wrong? What would happen to the majority of people if the world leaders say, hey, by the way, something's really bad going down and it's going to get even worse in the next 5 years? What would you see people doing?
Well, I personally don't. I'm not sure that the government would do that unless it was right there in your face. You know, like if it was something really, really bad. But if they do that, then you know that they're already prepared. The government is the biggest prepper in the world. All right. Governments are the biggest preppers in the world. because they want to make sure that they retain their power. That's what government is. It's force. It's power in the hands of the few.
What are the public? What are the public going to do, though?
Yeah, it would be, in my opinion, it would be mayhem. It would be mayhem. I mean, depending on what the situation was, if it was a broken supply chain, if it was something where the supply chains were not going to be up, let's say it was an EMP, and let's say it was an EMP where the transformers that we need in order to transmit electricity throughout our grids in the United States, they take like a year and a half to make, and they don't even make them here in the United States. They make them in South Korea. But let's say it was an EMP and nothing is coming back for years. People would panic, and people would go and start looting, rioting. They'd start panic buying everything they could. The supermarkets would be wiped out in a matter of hours. People say, yes, there's 3 days worth of food in a supermarket. If people panic bought a supermarket, like let's say your local Walmart, literally in 1 to 2 hours, it would be stripped clean. And people
look
will
at Black
start
Fridays.
doing bad things.
Look at Black Friday. Black Friday,
Yeah,
there's hundreds
exactly.
of TVs, thousands of TVs. They packed it to the gills, and people within 30 minutes, you look and all of the displays are empty because people ran in, grabbed everything they could. That's going to be the same mentality when everything hits the fan. Or I'm sorry, I should say if.
Yeah.
Most of us believe it will hit. I believe it's gonna happen in my lifetime, if not very soon. It will happen down the road. It's bound for a country that has been on top of the world for so long, that is all based around a currency that is just printed out of thin air and based on debt. That it's going to collapse. There's no way around it. Any financial expert will say, well, eventually, yes. It's kind of like the sun. We know that the sun can supernova, but everybody's like, oh, it's okay because it's not going to happen when I'm alive, right? Nobody cares because it's not going to happen when we're alive.
Actually, like if the sun supernovas, I'm fine with it because there's nothing we can do about it, and we'll all be done. That's something you can't control. That you better be good with your creator if something like that happens. But Adam, you want me to tell you what I think is going to happen?
Absolutely.
As far as the big picture. So this is what I personally think is going to happen. I personally don't, unless it's a natural occurrence, unless we have like a Carrington event style CME from the sun that takes out the electricity for the whole planet, unless it's something like that, that's a natural occurrence that we cannot control, right? I don't think we're going to have like a Mad Max SHTF kind of scenario here in the United States. What I think will happen is this, is that the United States of America is going to turn into Venezuela. Our currency, the Federal Reserve note, which is the world reserve currency currently, is going to lose its world reserve currency status. Right. And it's going to turn us into a third world country. And this is why I believe that it will turn us into a third world country. It's because the United States produces nothing. We don't produce anything in the United States. And even those things that we do produce are produced with parts and raw materials that are imported from other nations. So a nation's true wealth is what it produces. So for all of these decades, like you said, we've been printing paper out of thin air, and we've been giving paper to other countries for real goods that they've been giving us. So they've been trading their labor, giving us their labor for whatever gadget they're selling us for paper that we just printed out of thin air. So that's why I would say that if we lose, and when we lose the world reserve currency, we will be like a third world nation. And with third world nations, bad things come, like dictatorships, like oppressive government.
Kidnapping, robbing.
Things like that happen with third world nation. Exactly. Those types of things as well. All right. So that's what I think will happen in the United States, given that a natural occurrence like we spoke of, like a CME, or even something like if it was a man-made occurrence like an EMP, unless something like that were to happen, a huge earthquake that broke, like the United States in half and it messed up our supply chain completely. unless something like that happened, I don't think we're going to have like a Mad Max world. But ask yourselves, if you're disappointed that we're not going to have a Mad Max world, ladies and gentlemen, ask yourselves, would you want to be living in Venezuela right now? And if you were going to be living in Venezuela right now, what would you do in order to prepare to live in that kind of a world?
So by the
what I advocate is, oh, go ahead.
No, well, I'll point out. I want to point out something about Venezuela and how shocking it really is. But finish your statement. I'm sorry.
No, but I was going to say, if you don't want to be living in a world like Venezuela or in a country that's like Venezuela or Cuba, right, then prepare for that reality. Because even if we turn into a Venezuela because of our currency's value, there are still things that you can do to protect yourself against that impact. And we still have the time to do it now. Because the train that we are in, the train that we're riding on right now, it is headed towards a wall. And eventually it will get to that wall. And you want to be ready before it gets there.
So I want to point out, so they said, what is that inflation at now? By the way, Dex, if you want to pop in at any time, again, you're welcome to. I believe they said it was at something, whatever it was at 8% when we covered it, and then they've talked about the different rises.
Yeah, 8.6%.
So check this out. There's a graph here. I just want to, when you saw the memes of Venezuela, and they showed this huge stack of American cash, they showed, for the effect of it, they showed this huge stack that you would see on like Breaking Bad. It was just a giant, it was $2 million. Mm-hmm. And then it said equals, and then it said a roll of toilet paper or a bag, a thing of toilet paper. They weren't kidding, because look at this. It went from 0% in 2017, 0% or around, about the 1-2%, and then it went up. And these lines are not in the hundreds; they're in the thousands. It got up upwards of 160,000%. We're at 8.6. That is hyperinflation. That's the real killer. 160,000%. We're at 8.6 right now, and that's how bad it is right now. Think about when your money is absolutely worthless. You couldn't throw hundreds out the window. People wouldn't. If a cash truck like what happened a few months ago blew up, nobody would stop on the freeway. In fact, stopping and restarting your car would probably cost more than picking up all that money on the street. So this is scary. But let me talk. What if the United States knew or knows that this is coming, and what if that is why everybody is orchestrating? What if they know the dollar's going to collapse? Do you think maybe that they could be orchestrating a lot of the stuff that's going on? Well, yeah, but do you think maybe that's why all of this is going on?
They've known this for decades. They've known this. Look, if you really look into the Federal Reserve, if you really look into the system and how the dollar was created and how it was born, when this system by which we are governed, the economic system, the financial system by which we are governed here in the United States, when it was developed, it was already known that one day it would fail. There is absolutely no way that this system can continue on forever. There is absolutely no way, because it is a debt-based system with infinite currency creation. And whenever there is infinite currency creation against finite resources, the system of currency fails, because there's no such thing as infinite resources. There's finite resources, and they can print as much as they want. It will eventually fail. They know that this will fail. What they're doing is, in my opinion, is they are keeping us on the hook until they can get their new system, ready to go. I believe they already have that ready to go. And unfortunately, the new system that the government / Federal Reserve, because I believe they are one and the same. Unfortunately, I believe that having a hyperinflationary event and then getting ourselves out of it, by having to suffer and actually going through the bad times would be a better outcome than the system that they have planned for us, which is a centrally banked digital currency. In other words, programmable money that will tell you when you can spend it, where you can spend it, how much you can spend it, how long you have to spend it. You will be a complete slave. If people think that we are slaves today, if we ever enter into this CBDC that they are planning to put us into, this digital currency like they have in China, then you have another thing coming, because we are nowhere close to being slaves today under the system by which we are governed today compared to a CBDC. That is what I believe that they have planned next. They say that they're looking into it, but in reality, they've already got it ready to go. They've been messing around with this with MIT since like 2015, 2016. So when you hear Jerome Powell say, yeah, I think we're looking into, having a CBDC where the Federal Reserve can inject money into the economy by putting money in your account, they're not looking into it. It's ready to go. They're just waiting for the right crisis where the people will have had enough suffering that the people themselves will ask for their own enslavement.
So, so when somebody like Elon Musk says your best bet in the future is to have a guaranteed income, essentially being on a welfare type thing, do you think he knows something? And by the way, maybe so this whole event, everything with the world, people ask, well, why? What motivation would there be to do a WW3? Well, it would be exactly that. If there was a structure of power and a changeover, it would be easier to switch over to whatever the new currency is. There's a lot of things that have to break before they fix. And unfortunately, what these people at the very top don't care about is the people that suffer are you and I. Is that not right, or what?
Oh, no, yeah, that's absolutely right. I mean, sometimes I think to myself sometimes, how is it that a person that has everything that they could ever ask for want more? And in my opinion, it's just a sickness. Like these people that are trying to govern the world, they have everything that they could ever ask for, but they want more. I believe that I'm not in this position, but I believe that once you've had so much money that you can have anything you want, that the next evolution would be to have more power. And yeah, I mean, that's what we're dealing with. We are dealing with people that don't care about humanity, because if they cared about humanity, they would be using their riches to help humanity voluntarily instead of trying to enslave humanity and use them as pawns on a chessboard.
I also want to point out, when Venezuela and everything hit, they also had, for some reason, they had grid downs and they had all these different events. Do you think that there was anything strange there when you watched what happened in Venezuela? Which, by the way, it says, more recently, it says that Venezuela inflation was set to top 1 million %. So I was looking at 180,000% on that graph. They said it was set to hit 1 million % inflation. We're at 8.6, just 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
I follow their inflation by following their gold price, and I know that back in 2012, right before they started their financial collapse, it was all the way back. It's been 10 years now, believe it or not. Back in 2012, I believe that 1 ounce of gold in Venezuela was selling for around, I think it was about 5,600 bolivars. And today, or not today, but the last time I checked, maybe a month or two ago, an ounce of gold was selling for a little over 300 million bolivars. 300 million bolivars, from 5,600 10 years ago to 300 million today.
Basically, that same amount of money, you were one of the most elite in that country. Now, all of your money could buy 1 ounce of gold. Well, actually, that's not even rich. That's not even
saved. Yeah, no, yeah. If you
300 million, though,
gold,
that
you
is
would have lost everything.
That is a lot. So that was an elitist, one of the mansion riding people in Venezuela. Now can barely afford a single ounce of gold. And
well, the thing is, in Venezuela, it's a two-tier society. You really have your rich and your poor. So I guarantee you this, Adam, that before their currency started hyperinflating, all of the elite and all of the rich either change their bolivars into gold, or they changed their bolivars into dollars or silver. But they changed it into that, and they didn't get stuck holding the bag. The people that get stuck holding the bag, I would say 99% of the time, are your average, everyday working folk. We are the ones that get stuck holding the bag. Unless we are in the know and we keep ourselves educated as to what's going on with the financial system, with the economy, you will get stuck holding the bag. You will get stuck with that 401k that you worked for all your life, and then one day it'll be worth enough for you to buy a bus ticket or a cup of coffee, and that's what you worked for all your life. That is going to happen here in the United States of America eventually.
And by the way, when he says that, that's not over-exaggeration. It's just like the sun supernova. No. It is eventual. It will happen. It's just the predicting of the time. And now look at what is actually happening right now. Everything is going forward. Dex, let's go over to Dex real quick.
I was going to say, many people who have 401ks can look at them now and think that it's already happened. So.
Oh no, it's going to be much worse.
Oh, I know it'll be worse, but it's pretty bad already.
Yeah. Whenever I get to talking this way, I like to give people hope, because there is hope, and the hope is that in order for the system to fix itself, people are going to have to suffer. But just like those people that made it through the Great Depression, they suffered, but they learned valuable lessons. And what happens with humanity is I'm not sure if you've ever read the book, The Fourth Turning, but in a human life cycle, human's life cycle, there are 4 turnings, and they are measured in like the seasons. The first cycle is the spring, when you're born. The second cycle, when you're growing up, is the summer. Then when you're getting older and you've had your achievement done, it's the fall. And then the very last cycle is the winter. And the winter cycle is the cycle of crisis. And we are now in the winter cycle. This is why when people were talking about that we're going into a dark winter a couple of years ago, I think it started, I didn't take it as that we were going to have a bad winter per se. But the way I interpret it is that we are going into a bad winter, into the 4th turning of the human cycle, which is a winter cycle, and it is the cycle of crises. And that's exactly what we've been going through for about the last 7-8 years, is crises after crises after crises. And it just happens that we're only about halfway through the 4th turning, or the winter cycle of a human cycle. So this is not going to end for another 10, 15 years before we can start to rebuild. I say that we won't be able to start to rebuild, and the dust won't be settled until probably about 2032, 2033, because let me give everyone some good news, is that globalism will not win. They will not win, but it's going to take a long time for humanity to actually suffer enough to say, I've had enough, and this is not for me. No, thank you. I'm not joining the club. And then humanity will come together, and globalism will not win, ladies and gentlemen. So we can be assured of that.
So I also want to point out, obviously, there have been a few things that have done well throughout these things, but really another part of prepping is something like salt like an essential thing to us life. We require salt. There is salt in a lot of things that you probably don't realize, because salt is something that we actually need. If you have a deficiency of it, you can. It's not good. Something like salt in Venezuela was actually bartered as if it was, $100 bill. That's why people are putting aside things like physical food, physical items, because if that does happen, if your idea of the future happens, which again, a lot of people agree with you, then money will be worthless. Money will not, not get anything done. In fact, I talked about this other day. Some of the five of the richest people in the world met with this gentleman. And this gentleman was talking about on a documentary about how he thought he was going to a speech and he was going to be speaking to a whole crowd. He ended up getting paid for this event. He didn't get too much foresight of what it was going to be. He ended up going, and it was 5 guys sitting in a room, and he goes, who are these people? Are these the people running it? And they said, no, these are the people you're going to be talking to today. And he said, there's only 5 people here. He said, yes, and they're some of the most elite people, and they just want to ask you questions. He ended up sitting down at the table. One of the biggest questions that they kept asking is, how do we keep people? We have a silo. We have bunkers. If this happens, this happens, this happens. How do we keep our security forces if money is worthless? If you say you're paying them $1 million a year, but $1 million doesn't equal anything, how do we keep those men and those workers? How do we do that if money is worthless? And so there's even flaws, even in the richest preppers, book. There's going to be flaws, and that's why we continually try to think of new ways to actually, fix and come up with solutions for what's happening. This is scary stuff, but at the same time, if you do basic prep, you could be set up 1,000, 1,000,000% better than the person next to you. And that's even something you have to plan for too, is those people coming for your stuff.
Yeah, I think you're talking about Martin Armstrong, the gentleman that went to talk to the 5 people. I think that was Martin Armstrong, which is an awesome cycles analyst. I love that guy. Who, by the way, let me put a little caveat to that. Who, by the way, Martin Armstrong, in my opinion, is like an American hero. He was held in contempt of court and put in jail for 8 years without being charged because he would not give the government a computer software program that he developed that could tell the government when governments would crumble. So anyways, I just thought that would be a fun fact. But yeah, you know what? You bring up a great point that, all the money in the world is not going to save you unless you take that money. And when I say money, I mean fiat currency, right? Unless you take that money and actually turn it into real stuff. When I do my payday preps, I've heard it all. I've heard it. All you do is get stuff. I'm like, ladies and gentlemen, do you understand that eventually China will cut off the United States? Eventually China will cut us off. What are we going to do when China cuts us off? Where are we going to get our pharmaceutical ingredients from? Where are we going to get our microchips when they take over Taiwan? Where are we going to get our gadgets? Where are we going to get our car parts, our air filters, our this, our that? Where are we going to get it? So without stuff, what are you going to do with the cash that you have? And that's why I get stuff. Whenever I come into money, you know what, Adam, I invested early in Bitcoin, and I went ahead and cashed it out before it started plummeting because I knew it was going to happen. And you know what I did with my Bitcoin money? First of all, I paid Uncle Sam. I bought my wife a motorcycle, and then I bought preps. I don't have 1 penny of those profits left. Why? Because I know that eventually that fiat currency will be worth much less a year from now than what it is worth today in the form of the goods that it can get me.
Well, that's why we've told people too, when you actually buy prep food or MREs, those actually become valuable. Those become you wouldn't be able to buy. So say I already know the preps you buy this year will be worth more, or the price will most likely be higher than it is now next year, and you're not going to be able to get the same amount for the same amount. By the way, I just want to pause for a second because I don't want to get too behind on this. I did want to say thank you to a few people and read some comments from the chat. Let's see here. It says the first 4 right here. Let's see. God bless all in this house. Stephen McMahon. Sweetie Turner says, thank you for all. The Bitter Critter says, Alaska Prepper Marfia. Thank you. Hey, again, Bitter Critter, thank you for supporting Independent. And then, of course, Lunacy Prepper, thank you for the super sticker there. And everybody else that just popped in, thank you over on DLive. Everybody that is, of course, still popping in. It looks like we just gained a few more people there. Thank you, guys. And then, let's see here. Stephen McMahon says, I live in Chicago, and I can't manage to get out. I'm terrified of what things will be like. A great comment there, because a lot of people in cities are really worried right now as far as if they will actually even be able to exit. We'll talk about that here in a second. I pray we have enough time to get the message of need for prepping to a critical mass of the population. I think a lot of us are doing the work of it, but it's about it. You can't convince somebody that they need to prep. That's why we say do it in baby steps. Show people why. After CV, nobody should need to figure that out. Be Real Beast, he's spot on. White sheets already done. God bless. Be Real Beast, you should be worried when water quits flowing. That's when a real issue is at hand. God bless. Shirley Millward, thanks Foogle fam for 1,000. Keep clicking. Hey, I'm super awesome. Again, thank you for telling other folks to like. If you found this valuable, please do. And again, thank you, Luna C. Prepper. So, Alaska Prepper, by the way, so when somebody is in the city, and I do want to hit a couple articles with you here, probably. We'll hit the first 4 before you end up leaving today, because there's a few things that I probably think that you would actually be good to address. But first of all, when people are stuck in the city, what is it going to be like when, say, the power goes off or the water turns off? What do you think? How do you think cities are going to end up?
Yeah,
being?
That's a great question. Well, cities are going to end up being death traps, number one. And I'm not saying this to disparage anyone that lives in the city, but that's just the fact. And we've come to a point where we have to expose the fact. And that's just all there's to it. So I actually had a community member, a husband and a wife, call me and say, we live in a crowded area, but we love living here. And we don't want to leave. However, we have some disposable income that we can use to buy a piece of land and do whatever. What do you recommend? And of course, I never recommend anything. I always tell people, do your own research, but this is what I would do. If I lived in a populated area, what I would do, and I loved living where I live, there's nothing wrong with that. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to live. You know, I just talked about that today during my live stream. We have to enjoy those seconds and minutes of our lives, or else what's it all for? So you have to live. And if you like living in the city, by all means, live in the city, but have an escape plan. If you can, try to find a small piece of land, at least one gas tank away from the city, where you can bug out to. And bugging out just means relocating in a hurry. And if I had enough money, I would buy a small piece of land. I would build like a pole barn, which is like a 3-sided garage. And then I would get myself a small RV, enough for myself and my family, where we could be self-sufficient or self-reliant for a period of time where you can wait out the mayhem. Maybe have that area that you buy, the small piece of land, maybe have a cache there with some supplies, enough to last you a month or two, and you have somewhere to go. And then have an escape plan. Practice that escape plan, once or twice a year or once a month, however long you want to do it. If you want to go camping with your family, go ahead. Practice your escape plan. Have different routes to get there. Now, I understand that many people do not have the means by which they can just go buy a piece of land, 300 miles away from where they live and maintain it. In that case, see if you have a friend, see if you have a family member that lives in a favorable area that doesn't have a lot of people in it, and say, hey, listen, if you're on the same page, say, hey, listen, can I store some of my supplies here? And if something ever happens, would you mind us coming here and waiting out the mayhem with you? And I'll have my supplies here already, so it's not like we would be a hindrance to you. The opposite, we would actually be able to help you, pulling security and helping with the garden or whatever. There's always something that you can do, and there's always someone that would be willing to take you in as long as you have something to offer. You can have your labor to offer. You can have different skills to offer. Buy lots of bullets. All right. I hope I can say bullets on this channel, or freedom seeds, as we like to call them in the prepper community. Buy lots of freedom seeds, become proficient in self-defense, and you can hire out yourself as a security force. There are so many things that you can do in order to be able to get out of the city in a hurry and be able to survive instead of just leaving there as a refugee. instead of bugging out, which means that you actually have a plan.
Alaska, that's essentially networking and having people of like-minded. You want to pick
Absolutely.
those. You also want to pick those people carefully as well. You don't want a situation where you want to trust them with your life, because if you're putting all of your preps 300 miles away, and when you get there, they have then relocated somewhere else with your preps, you got to be careful about that. But that's what I think that has to be a solution. And you go, well, I don't have any friends. You need to make them. That's why channels like Alaska Preppers exist. That's why channels like mine exist. You have to find friends, and you have to really get to know them. Not just like, oh, I've talked to them for 3 years on a chat. You really have to start getting to know people. And a lot of my members have actually met in real life. They have met over and over again. They have talked. They've gone out to dinner. They've formed bonds that will never end. So as far as that goes, there are ways to get around the fact that you can't afford something. Again, that is something that all of us truly believe. As far as if your priorities are straight, then it should be good. Now, just want to hit something real quick. Algorithm predicts crime a week in advance, but reveals bias in police response. This article will be available over on marfooglenews.com, but it really plays into everything that's possibly coming in the future, which we've talked about a bunch on our show, Alaska, but it's like, what is it? Not True Lies. Minority Report is coming. All of these things.
Yeah, Minority Report.
In fact, do you think that these systems are coming in the future because they know things are going to break down as far as predicting who is going to commit a crime?
Well, I mean, Adam, I think they're already here. Think about it. I did a test with my son, when he was still living here a couple of years ago. I was telling him, you know what, the other day something popped up on my phone, an ad popped up, and I never searched for this item, but I remember talking about it. And he was like, no way, there's no way that happened. The phone's not listening to you. So I said, let's do a test. So I forgot, I think we started talking about McDonald's, but I told him, I said, let's just start talking about something that's crazy. Let's just start talking about it. And we started talking, I think it was about McDonald's. I don't remember exactly what it was, but we just kept saying the word over and over again and saying it in conversation for like 20 minutes. And Adam, you wouldn't believe it, that no more than 5 minutes after our conversation was over, after he had pretty much dismissed it saying, yeah, I told you it wasn't going to happen, I got an ad on my phone for what we were talking about. So the system is already there. There's already an AI system listening to what you're saying and predicting what you want to buy next by the words that you say and the manner in which you say them. So if they already have that system available, it means that they already have a system in the works that can predict what your behavior will be in the future. Or maybe not 100% predict, but what the probability of what you will do in the future from what you're saying.
Okay, so now go in.
So it's like I said, a lot of these systems. Yeah, well, I would say a lot of these systems that we think they're working on, they already have.
Okay, so that gets me to my next article here. It says, it's alive, how belief in AI sentience is becoming a problem. And I just want to point out, so of course, Google ended up having an employee come out and essentially say that their chatbot AI has become sentient, and it has emotions, and it even wants to be recognized as a formal employee. It wants the same rights as any human being. It actually wants rights and things like this. And of course, they canned him or they suspended him. They said, hey, this is private stuff. You shouldn't have said this. What it's doing is just part of the AI. It's not what you think it is. And his excuse was, well, actually, I feel like it's a person, and I recognize that it's a person because, how the culture is now. It's like, well, it says it's a person, so we need to recognize it. So he said, it's a conversation between me and another employee, so I don't think I should be punished. Because it said, when he said, how would you like to be addressed, and how would you like to be looked at? Just as another employee of Google. That's what the AI supposedly said. So there's things like this that are coming out.
Wow.
And as far as AI, they have done some unbelievable things. We have read articles, scientists saying that the AI is getting so good, even before this sentient thing, to where it is predicting. So their excuse for your McDonald's popping up or whatever you're talking about is not that they're listening. They're even saying it's scarier than that it is so smart and that it's learning all of your patterns so well that it's going to know you're going to think of McDonald's randomly in a part of the day. That's what they're saying. They're saying, no, it goes off of your patterns and what you're talking about. So even though you think maybe you thought you were thinking of something random, but maybe they knew before you knew that you were going to talk about McDonald's or whatever it may have been. Doesn't that kind of seem terrifying that they have systems like this that may be in play already?
Yeah, I mean, I believe it. Yeah, I believe it. There's nothing that would surprise me nowadays. Like when something crazy happens, I'm really not surprised. I'm like, yeah, I believe it. It's so unfortunate that we've taken all of this knowledge, we've taken all of these technological advances, and instead of using it for good, we've used it to gain power instead. I mean, think about all of the good that can be done in the world with all of the knowledge that we have gained. And instead, it's used to try to gain more power over people and countries. It's a heck of a shame. But, one of the things that I've always told my community members is there are some things that we will never be able to change at a personal level. So I try not to worry about those things because there's nothing I can do to change it on a personal level. But I can prepare for my family. Someone told me once in an email, they said, the Riskies have a missile pointed at Alaska. And I'm like, well, what can I do about that? All I can do about that is that if that thing goes off, all I can do is make sure that I'm okay with myself, that I can look at myself in the mirror, that I'm all right with my creator. That's all I can do about that, because there are some things that you just cannot change. You cannot do anything about. But you can be prepared for the worst case scenario. And if it's time to go, it's time to go. If it's my time today to leave this physical body and leave this physical world, it's not my choice. It's just time to go. So only worry about those things that you yourself can change and that you yourself can control. If it's out of your control, then worrying about it is only, in my opinion, using your energy for something that's pretty much a moot point. It's just, pretty much wasting your energy. Put your energy towards use of something that you can't control that will possibly impact you and your family.
Basically,
your community, of course.
You just quoted the serenity prayer, basically. I just want to point out to there's a lot of things from draughts to everything else. I do want to pause for a moment. I did want to I want to keep you on just a little bit longer. We're going to have another caller behind you,
okay.
A normal caller. I wanted to I basically blocked this out so we could talk for a while. There's so much more. I kind of want to have this be a somewhat regular thing. I've talked to you before about other things, about possibly doing a piece once a week or something, but I don't know if there's so much to cover. We could do a whole 2-hour show on this, probably every day, actually. But
we could go on. Yeah, we can go on and on.
So I guess another thing is... well, I guess as far as like the payday preps and stuff, people need to go over to your channel and see your payday preps and the things that you're talking about. I think people really need to follow this man really closely, especially off camera and on camera. Not only the same guy, but he is also very, very passionate about this, and he will not steer you the wrong way. He has given me honest advice about even some of the things that I have done that I think that I could even do better as far as my preps go. So I do trust him, and I am by no means an expert. I am just like most of you, trying to prepare and get as much as you can, but you also can make a lot of mistakes that take up a lot of room. There, in some cases, a lot of people will have so much of this, but then realize that in a real SHTF scenario, even if you have a whole 4 shelves of this, that it's not going to give you the proper nutrition that you actually need to live. So I do want to point out he is very good at that. He pays attention to things like the nutrition of the values and everything else. So we'll probably talk about that later down the road. But I do want to point out Alaska prepper knows his stuff. As far as the scenario, I actually was going to ask you, what about it? So they knew that hyperinflation is possible. They knew that the system is going to break down. Just assuming we all agree on that the United States knows the dollar will eventually collapse. Do you think that the events happening even from 2019 up until now, and even the events happening now, are heavily tied into that? Do you think that the conflict with UKR and the Ruskies, do you think that that's tied in with all of this?
Well, you know what, Adam? It's funny that you say that, because I discussed this a while back on one of my live streams, and I said something that goes along with this, that what the Ruskies did in engaging the other nation was in my opinion, and I don't know if they did this because of that, because I'm not saying that they're in cahoots with the Federal Reserve or the central banks or anything like that. I actually think that they hate central banks. They kicked them out of their country. But what they did for the Federal Reserve and for the United States government, it was a gift. It was a gift that they went into that country. And the reason it was a gift is because during that time, the U.S., the stock market and the markets were starting to fail really hard. And that gave the Federal Reserve, i.e. the U.S. government, the opportunity to say, hey, listen, we need to print billions and billions and even up to $1 trillion more dollars on top of what we printed before, because we have to be patriotic and send all of this newly printed money to another country. And the means by which this financial system stays afloat is by creating more debt. When you take a look at one of your dollar bills, that is not money. That is debt. It is a debt note. It doesn't even belong to you. It's just something that was lent to you so that you can trade with someone else that will accept it for something that has real value, that has tangible value, i.e. something that's physical, that you want and or need, right? And without new debt being created every second of every single day, the system will fail. So that invasion, in my opinion, was a gift to the Federal Reserve. It just gave it a few more months or maybe a year more of life before the system finally does collapse. And like I said before, if the system doesn't collapse, it's because they put us into a new system, which in my way of thinking is a collapse. Because whenever you leave an old system and enter into a new system, you collapse the old system, i.e. 1971, August 15th, when Richard Nixon took us off of the gold standard. That was the collapse of the old system, of the Bretton Woods system, and the birth of the new system, the fiat currency system.
Now, also, obviously, most of us see the obvious. During the last couple years, which at first was just mind-boggling because a lot of us didn't see what the real thing was, right? And some of us have now. But when this all happened in 2019, this whole debacle, something very, very particular happened. Every store changed the way they entirely did business to revolve around this event, such as the self-checkouts. Preparing for Survival, a channel that I found the other night, a woman, she pointed out what exactly. I actually thought she was at the same Walmart as me because of the situation, she said, but apparently she was across the country.
I saw that video.
Okay, so I'm about to tell him what happened in that video. Basically, she said that she was going to buy stuff and whatever else. She went there, and there was one line open with people to the very back of the store. And if you can relate to this, then that's scary because that means it's going on across the country. She was like in Alabama or some Midwest state. Here in Washington, I was at a Walmart, same thing, line all the way down the middle of the store, and that was the cash-only line. All 50, they had 50 of the self-checkouts open, but it was credit card only, digital, right? So what are you going to pick? If you have both, you're most definitely going to pick card. You're going to go boom and keep trucking, right? As she said. But if you have cash, you have to wait in that long line for 45 minutes. It was a 45-minute wait in line, almost an hour. I was there 45 minutes past close when they closed their doors just to pay cash, and I didn't have a card on me. So what are you going to pick? You're going to start not even bringing cash. You're going to bring card. And everything is going like this. And remember the change shortage? That happened, right? How are we out of change? I didn't understand.
It's still going on.
Well, yeah. And guess what? Since they don't have change, a lot of places wouldn't even take cash. Or they would say you would just have to pay and you would lose money. They would round up or they would round down in the generous cases. This is all happening. And people, I'm sorry, I personally think, I don't believe a lot of the stuff that they're saying about all of this. I feel like they want every single dollar to be digitally tracked through a system. And they know, and then they did the Banking for All Act. Do you know what the Banking for All Act is? It's basically an act.
Is that the one where
Go ahead.
Yeah, where the Federal Reserve, I believe the Federal Reserve was mandated to create an account, a digital account for every American.
Basically, your
social... Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, and they say that 25% of the world doesn't even have anything on record on a bank account. They want to change that, even in the third world. So this is a way bigger deal than people realize. We are living in historic times. We are living in the next the turnover, and there will I believe there will be not only war, but there will be tyrannical moves, and there will also be a lot of struggles ahead. And that is why people need to start paying attention to the prepping community and understand that it really is going to come down to, did you take care of yourself? In fact, Alaska, I've told people many times about what happened in Katrina. In Katrina, the police left their posts. Where do you think the police went in Hurricane Katrina? They went. Well,
some of them went home, and some of them stayed around to harass the citizenry.
Oh well, yeah, there was horror stories of people. Basically, they had authority, so they just took stuff for themselves. I didn't even bring that up, but they left to grab their own family members. They went to grab their own mothers and grandmothers out of nursing homes, and there was nothing, and that's why they declared martial. So, if people think that we're not going to experience that ever in our lifetime, because why? Because we're America, or because you're Europe, or because you're Australia, or because you're Canada? Look at what Canada did during that event up there. They were able to freeze accounts.
Yeah, I mean, and I'll tell you what, Adam. The main reason why I feel that the government wants to get us into a digital currency is because they cannot take away our 2A. If they were able to take away our 2A, they would be able to have their way with us. But if they cannot take away our 2A and have that control over us, they can have control over us to a certain extent if all of your money is on digits, and they can pretty much demonetize your life with the push of a button. Imagine that. They can pretty much uninvent you with the push of a button. They can program your money, saying if you don't spend this money in 2 weeks, it's going to disappear. They can program your money saying, hey, AP is looking like he gained a little bit of weight over the winter. Let's go ahead and only restrict his digital ID to only be able to go to McDonald's once a month. They can program your money as far as who you can donate to for political reasons or whatever. And people don't know how people, for the most part, I can't speak for everyone, but for the most part, people don't understand how much money plays in their life. When you think about it, money is half of every transaction that you make. Every transaction that you make, half of it has to do with money. And money represents your labor. It represents your time. And what is your labor and your time? It is your freedom. So money represents your freedom, because the more of it you have, the more credits of minutes, hours, seconds, days you have stored away, where you can choose what you want to do for that amount of time that you've stored your labor in.
You're buying your freedom. You're buying the second half of your life. What our whole system is set so you work for 65 years only to retire to get your last, anywhere from 5. You may die at 65. 5 to 15 years of beauty, right? And again, with all of the crazy cancers now, you may get 5 years. And you're working all that time to save up those credits. And I love how you put it, because it sounds dystopian already. The way you describe what is our actual system sounds so dystopian and scary, but it's the truth. We're buying credit. We're saving it up. We're storing away our nuts for winter. And then when winter comes, we go golfing and we have our freedom. But we're not really free. You're still paying taxes on everything. You're still doing all this, but you've bought yourself some time to yourself. That's what you're doing. You're saving money to buy yourself some freedom, because freedom is really freedom equals rich in our culture. I can't speak for other countries, but man, it's getting crazy. Now, by the way, so Alaska, we are running out of time, so I did want to sum up things and just say thank you for everything, and I hope we can do this again. What could you close up today with?
Well, what I would close up with is be open to different types of preparedness channels, right? I hear too often where someone is saying something negative about this prepper channel or that prepper channel because they may disagree with one or two things. But what we have to understand is that we're all in this together. We all have the same message, and that's the message of preparedness. Some channels may do it different than other channels, but it doesn't mean that there aren't people out there that resonate with the message in the way that they put it out. So what I would like to say is that if you subscribed or unsubscribed from a prepper channel, just because you didn't like one or two things that they said, challenge yourself to try to find the good instead of concentrating on what you don't agree with. Because if you just dismiss someone's, opinion on how to do something because you don't agree with it, then you may be missing out on that one or two little things that you didn't watch or listen to just because you were dismissive of a person's opinion. So support prepper channels, because the more that you support them, ladies and gentlemen, the more that the word will get out. I don't normally tell people to blindly subscribe to any channel. Normally, whenever I promote a channel, I tell them, hey, go check them out. And if you like their content, support them by subscribing. So I would ask you to do the same thing. Go support other prepper channels by watching their content. And if you like it, subscribe. That way their word can get out to more people, because we don't have enough people prepared in the United States. When I look at preparedness as a national thing, I consider it a national security kind of a thing. I think that the better prepared that a nation's citizenry is, the better prepared that the nation is for anything, be it an invasion from outside our borders or an invasion from within our borders attacking our sovereignty. So go support your prepper channels and try to spread the message, because this is not about me and it's not about you. It's about us. When you think about it, no matter how different we are as individuals, we all have to eat, we all have to drink, and we all need warmth and shelter. So by supporting prepper channels and going out there and sharing their content, you're actually helping everyone around you and not just yourself. So, and I want to thank you very much, Adam. Listen, man, I've always had a great time every time that I've come and stopped by your channel. So I really appreciate you inviting me.
Well, and Alaska, I just wanted everybody to know, yesterday when I suggested that channel, the person vouching for all day, everyday preparedness was, of course, Alaska Prepper. And I just saw this as I pull it up, because we talked about it yesterday. I wanted to pull him back up and just make sure anybody that missed him yesterday went over. Alaska Prepper says that not only is he a humble guy, he's very talented. He served our country. He is ex-military, but you can tell that he is obviously. I just saw the video he put up. I didn't realize, and I don't know if you knew this either, but it said Marfoogle TV and Alaska Prepper did this to me, and he looks like depressed in the middle. And I already know what kind of video it is, and I can already tell. I watched like 5 of his videos.
Oh, I haven't seen it yet. I can't wait.
So it says, did this to me, and he looks depressed. So I already know he's gonna. I already know what kind of video it is, so I'm pumped to go watch that after. But make sure to go over and also support All Day Everyday Preparedness. I don't know if we got them to
great channel
milestones, but again, very, very nice guy. I already love his videos. And then, like I said, I put his channel in. And here's the cool thing about going over and subscribing to new channels is all of a sudden the algorithm starts relating to other channels that you may have missed. I found Survival for Prepping, or Prepping for Survival. I found Riverstead. I found all these other preppers. Now, they may not be the best. I don't know them yet. But I just found them, and they were huge channels. They were bigger channels that I never even knew about, and none of you even suggested to me. So that means in the algorithm, you've been pegged, and you've been only suggested like 6 or 7 channels around me. We need to spread that out and connect ourselves to all of the prepper community. So thank you, Alaska Prepper.
Actually, Adam.
Go ahead.
I was going to say one last thing, Adam, about prepping for survival. That young lady, her husband also has a channel, and his channel's name is Kevin, and he also talks about preparedness. So both of those channels are really good channels. I follow them both.
I have seen it, and I looked for a prepping video, and the name of the channel was just Kevin, and I was like, oh, that's
Kevin,
just Kevin. All right, well, you guys know where to find Kevin as well, and I didn't know, so that is awesome. I just found another channel. Thank you, Alaska Prepper. It is always a pleasure to have you on, and I'm honored for you to grace the screen here, and thank you so much. Next time, we'll try to get the video part of this working so you can more express yourself.
That'd be great.
Thank you, Alaska, and I hope we can...
Yeah, awesome. Hey, thank you, man. Hey, thank you, Fugle fam. Thank you for having me tonight, and God bless every one of you.
All right, well, God bless you as well. Alaska Prepper, make sure to go over and subscribe. All right, that was Alaska Prepper. We do have some other callers at 224-400-MARF. I just wanted to pop over and make sure. Okay, and then before we move on, I do want to remind all of you guys, while you still can, the importance of having actual power, no matter what it may be. May it be a storm, may it be a grid down scenario. The reason why we have Energy Solar Generator as one of our affiliates is because not only do both Dex and I use this, we thought it was one of the best systems out there as far as a backup generator. Energy is a solar generator. It's actually expandable. Not only is it expandable to 1, 2, 3, 4 batteries, you can actually expand this up to 96 batteries. The head unit, everything is manufactured in the highest standards. This is, no joke, one of the highest quality devices you will ever own. It is no joke, though. It is not an inexpensive thing because this is an actual solution for power. And not to mention, the reason why we found Energy is because of EMP Shield. EMP Shield actually makes a protective device specifically for the in and out of the Energy Solar Generator. So if you ended up getting an EMP Shield and you know what that has done, you can also look into Energy and actually an EMP Shield protected Energy Solar Generator. This generator, again, can be expanded so you can have as much length of power that you need. Also, it is silent. It is absolutely silent. It is running my studio right here. I can't run a desk fan without sound coming out of it. This thing does not make any sound. There is no noxious gases. You can have it inside your home, and you don't have to pay $7,000 to $14,000 a gallon for gas. That is a huge deal. This pairs up with their foldable solar panels. They have packages up to $170 off right now. We fought to get some sort of discount for these, and now we have a bunch of different packages. They put together all sorts of cool stuff just for the Fugle fam. This is I can't stress enough as far as how this can save your day. If you've ever had a power outage, then you'll know. Imagine just keeping it going after a massive power outage or a rolling blackout for 8 days, whether you be in California, Ohio, or wherever else. They're telegraphing us and they're telling us that our grid is strained and that we're going to have more problems in the next 2 years. So go over and make sure to use the code Marfoogle. Thank you for doing it through us. Not only did we fight for you guys to get a big discount, you're getting an amazing product. But also, you are helping our channel and you're reinforcing the growth of our channel. We want to expand. We want to make this bigger. We want to bring more people on. So please consider doing one of those. All right, thank you guys. And let's Let's move on. U.S. hypersonic missile fails in test in fresh setback for the program. This is among many of the stories I've covered as far as the failed tests that are going on. We don't know, as far as publicly they're saying this, if this is actually true. You can find the rest of this over on marfooglenews.com. But I will say, Dex, do you have a comment about the hypersonic missiles and what's going on with this?
Yeah, I mean, this is what they want us to hear. I got to imagine there's a lot going on behind the scenes that we don't know about. I don't know how far off we are from having these in production. Some say we actually do, and they just don't talk about it. So I don't know. But if it is what they tell us, then what they tell us is we're behind. And yet again, it's like the fourth or fifth setback on this. And they're saying now it's going to happen early in the 2020s, which, could mean anything between now and 2025, right?
Which, of course, lines up with every other theory of when stuff is going to fall apart. So that's great. So, again, if it is true, which we take everything with a grain of salt, then the United States, who is protecting most all of the other countries watching right now, is behind the supposed bad guys, right? So that's not good. And then Xi brought Hong Kong to heel. Now he's coming back to a city transformed. Xi and Hong Kong flags flutter above streets, and red celebratory banners line the harbor front as thousands of Hong Kong police guard the city's high-speed rail terminus, awaiting the arrival of Xi, their leader. This is in his first trip outside of mainland Xi land since the start of the pandemic. Xi is coming to Hong Kong to mark the 25th anniversary of its return to Chinese rule, a highly symbolic event at a pivotal time for both the city and Xi himself. The former British colony is midway through the 50-year promise of a high degree of autonomy given by Beijing under a framework known as One Country, Two Systems. It is also swearing its newly appointed leader hardline, former police officer John Lee. Xi, meanwhile, is only months away from finishing his first decade in power and is widely expected to seek an unprecedented third term at a key meeting of the ruling Communist Party this fall. So, and by the way, we know that he has set up essentially some sort of ruling thing where he's going to rule for the rest of his life, or essentially the rest of his life, however old he may be. And then Vladian assault ship hits mine near Mariupol, Odessa Oblast authorities. So we'll leave a lot of this over on marfooglenews.com. This is yet another event. Any one of these could be turned into hot or flashpoints, so that's why we pay attention to it. All right, Dex, I'm going to go over to the screener here. It looks like we have Lily, a first-time caller, and calling from Kansas. And let's get her on right now. And then, okay, so we're getting Lily on. Lily looks like she has to come in. If you haven't already, go over to marfooglenews.com/prep. You can get long-term survival food. And sorry, we're speeding through the show because I could literally talk to Alaska Prepper for a very long time. We could have just done the whole show, but again, we have other callers. So I'm going to leave this up for a minute. If anybody does want to go get yourself some MREs, again, like we've talked about, these are an investment in themselves. All right, Dex, do we have Lily?
Adam, no, we don't. Let me try and get her back on the line, and let's move to the next. Wait, hang on.
Okay, no problem. And it looks like we possibly have Aspen behind it, and talking about some of the plagues that are going on. All right, and then join CERN in a historic week for particle physics. So if you haven't been following CERN is, of course, kicking it up again, and I believe it's going to be on July 5th, which is quite a day to pick. The day after Independence Day, they're gonna start this thing up. So I have heard all sorts of different ideas of what may happen. Some people even think that it will be like another Mandela effect, that all of a sudden people will wake up after this thing kicks on and things will have been changed, but nobody will notice. I have seen that message so many times. People think that the last time CERN went on, that's why the Mandela effect actually happened. If you don't know about the Mandela effect, it's basically things you remember as something different, and now they are completely changed. Like people remember Nelson Mandela, that he died in prison. Of course, he's still he was still kicking. Berenstein. So there's lots of crazy stuff going on with this, and we are following it very closely. As far as the 5th of July, that is when they are going to kick this thing up. Remember, CERN is actually in one of the big lists of things that could actually be the end of the world. It's just one of the many crazy ideas that may kill us, right? All right, Dex.
And Adam, we have Aspen on the line, and I've got Lily ready right after.
Okay, perfect. Aspen, you are live. First-time caller out of Utah. What's going on?
Hey, what's up? First of all, thank you so much for everything you do. I do have a bunch of notes, so I'm just going to kind of speed through them to you because I know you're kind of crunching for time. So I called in originally and tried to get a hold of you guys a couple different times, and this is the first successful time that I've been able to get in touch with you. But it was interesting, the timing, because I'd gone to see the new Jurassic Park movie. Which, have you seen it?
I think the newest one with the there's 5 of them, so I get them mixed up. But I believe I have seen the latest one.
Cool. So it just came out. Of course, for people who haven't seen it, a brief summary of the series premise is that man goes into this genetic experimentation phase, which basically leads to this shift in the human species evolution alongside the, reemergence of prehistoric DNA. So it's kind of about this, whether we should or shouldn't, which, if you remember the last couple of years, has been quite a significant topic of conversation. And this new movie, which, you've spoken on the show previously about the new Spider-Man movie, which contained a lot of propaganda and was very politically argued over, if you will.
Yes.
It's interesting to me, the movies that are coming out, how filled with this stuff they are. So the new movie's premise, essentially one of the opening scenes is they establish very early on in this very almost passive line that these huge crickets are going around eating only organic or non-biosin crops. Biosin is the name of the company that essentially is manufacturing these crops that have been genetically modified. And interestingly enough, where you're, the recent show that you had where you were exploring the Mormon crickets that are going around right now, just having grown up in Utah and knowing the folklore, if you will, that is amongst children about what that was, it was a very God-inspired event, and he sent seagulls to come and eat the crickets, and they were all saved. And the way that affected the Mormons' ability to survive the winter, that they had just pilgrimaged to Utah, and it would have basically ended them, right? So this whole thing that's going on in the movie as I'm watching it is fascinating to me. And then they kind of turn to this next plot line, which is that one of the scientists had cloned herself, and because she had all these genetic issues, she performed genetic alterations on herself while she was pregnant to essentially cure herself so that then she could essentially live a life, which pass on her perfect genes. And so this convergence of these people in this movie bringing back prehistoric DNA, but then experimenting with it and what they're learning from it in a way that basically changes the human species. So interestingly, with your conversation that we just had with Alaskan Prepper, which he's amazing, it's fascinating to me to see all of these huge changes that are being made, not to just logistically, which is I think what 2020 was for, to laws and the grid and the status quo, so that people now will believe anything is going to happen, and people are just going to go along with it because what else has happened? Like, they stopped the world. So the money and this outer system of imposed control that we've had for a long time, I think we all kind of understand, whether you're religious or what your beliefs are, they've basically kind of from all sides indoctrinated us with this understanding that eventually they're going to move us to a different system. But that system is essentially going to be their way of taking the existing system to the next step and enabling them to force our agency to what they want. So, forcing the individual's agency as opposed to what they have right now, which is we essentially have to opt into the system. But if they take away that option by making it so uncomfortable for us to live without that system, then that's essentially what to me, the mark is. It's where you are forced to opt into the system because you feel you have no other choice, which I think is, getting into spiritual stuff. But where you guys were talking about time as a currency, there's documentation from the Gil Bates of the world, where they've done examples of how they would create a cryptocurrency blockchain system where humans are plugged into it, unto the matrix, and we essentially create our own mining through our actions. So me going from here to the door is me creating X amount of mining, energy into the system, which then in turn is going to repay me according to what the imposers of this system decide that credit is worth, right? So just, I guess I kind of want to wrap and close by saying, I think that for me, when I listen to your show and when I talk to many people a day because of my job, and it's fascinating to me to hear everybody seeing that the system is changing and not really understanding why, but also knowing at the same time that this is a spiritual situation. It's not just, regardless of your orientation and spirituality, I think that there's this thing that's happening where we are being faced with the option of whether we're going to stay human or whether we're going to accept that they want human to mean something different now. Everything from, the thing that just got overturned to the month that just ended and everything that's become political about that group of people. I'm trying to be super careful with my words here, but I think what they want us to do is to just blindly kind of walk into that shift. And I'd encourage anybody listening to make that choice yourself, because the goal for them is that once we don't make that choice for ourselves, we won't have other choices to make.
Wow. So first of all, now I know I did not see that latest Jurassic Park, especially if it's still in, but no. So, wow. I wish we had more time. I would love to go over as far as the predictive. I loved how a lot of people are commenting. It's basically pre-programmed conditioning, and people don't understand, well, why would they say things out in front? Well, it may not be like that. It might be more to get you subconsciously used to it. Subconscious is a huge thing. It is in all advertising. It's in all media. They're constantly trying to get us to think about something. Advertising is literally placing a logo somewhere to where you see that logo so much you can't stop thinking about it, because it's like McDonald's logos everywhere, Pepsi, Coke, all these things. And even in movies, we know, I mean, that's not a secret. They will hold up a soda and go, ha ha. It's all purposeful. And once you start realizing that all of this is on purpose, then you start opening your eyes to go, whoa, that means there's a bad guy behind that. So thank you for calling in today. And if you wonder why she's talking fast, that's because she's literally being considerate, and she understands we're in the last 10 minutes of the show. So thank you. I appreciate that.
Absolutely, and thank you, and then good night to everybody, and thanks for tuning in. Keep going with what you're doing. We appreciate it.
Well, okay, just one more thing. It's your first time call, and I really mean this. Will you please call back?
Sure, I absolutely will.
Okay.
I absolutely will. Thanks.
All right, thank you so much. I would love to hear. From Aspen again. Seriously, I think, gosh, we could. There's so many people that I really just want. We just do a show where we just talk to people. I love it. All right. Dex, do you want to fill me in on a time frame here?
Yeah, I'm getting Lily on. We got about 11 minutes. So I think we can squeeze her call in real quick.
Okay. All right. Perfect. All right. So we are going to get Lily on. Luckily, she was patient enough. Make sure to go over and check out marfooglenews.com/EMP. All right, let's see. Lily, are you there? Yeah, she's almost here. And just a note to those of you who are new or brought over from Alaska Prepper, make sure to go over to marfooglenews.com. you can find not only all of our notifications, you can get direct notifications, but you can also find the full bibliography for all of today's articles. And on top of that, you can even sign yourself up for an off-grid giveaway. All right, Dex.
Lily's on the line now.
All right. Lily, you are live on Marfoogle News.
Well, thank you so much, Marv, and thank you so much, Dex, and thank you, Marfoogle fam, for having me on the line.
Of course. What's going on?
Well, I have been watching you for quite some time, and I have noticed that a couple months ago, like, you have brought people on the show, and you've even talked about dreams and how they're kind of relevant on how events are playing out right now and how predictive things can come to be. Well, I have been having this recurring dream multiple times. Even during the day, I've been having kind of short glimpses of them, of just a total blackout of everything going dark, like nothing working, no cell phones, no cars, no lights, and everybody's freaking out. And then all of a sudden I see this big wall of water so high that it reaches the sky, and it covers inland as far as the Colorado Rockies. Everything from back on is gone, all of West Coast. All of Texas, as far as half of Oklahoma is gone, and it washes up into the Mississippi River. Everything, all the coastal lines are gone, and I can't seem to shake this, Marv. I have been trying so hard, thinking that, this is not going to happen, that I'm crazy, that, why do I keep having this vision in these dreams? And I don't understand, and I'm trying to get it out there, and it seems like people are just oblivious to what's going on around them. Even more so, they don't even know what's going on with China, with G or everything else. They only see what's on the news. And I'm like, why aren't you guys looking into this further? Are you guys worried about your future? Like, your future lies ahead of you, and you're just not even paying attention to it. You're paying attention to what society is telling you. And I don't understand. But here in the prepper community and everybody else and what you guys talk about, you guys are for real and legit. You guys know exactly what's going on. That's why I watch you guys so much all the time, ever since I found your channel. And I've been branching since then, and it's been wonderful because I've been prepping for me and my kid, and I tell you right now, it's been well worth it. And I am so grateful to have you guys on, that I can be able to watch you, because God knows how long I'm able to.
Well, let me tell you this. I have been talking to several creators. You know who would be really amazing at answering your question is Jacob Israel is really amazing with dreams. But I will say this. I have had that. I've had the same dream of everywhere being underwater. My sister has had that dream. And you know how they try to chalk up dreams to just being like, if it's about, if your teeth are falling out, then you're insecure, this or that. I get that there's probably parts of those things that are, but I do believe, and right. I this is my personal belief, and people can disagree or agree, as far as dreams do show us things, and I believe that there is a higher realm, and that we do get messages when we're asleep. How can people explain? Even scientists are baffled by dreams. Dreams are just absurdly detailed pictures of things, and and they just want us to think that it's just all random or subconscious, or it's you just thinking about things and they come to life magically in your dreams. I think a lot of us see that same thing, and I personally think you may be seeing a Cascadia subduction zone event. I think that's what I'm seeing, because I live here, and I think I'm being told about it, and that's why I've moved twice. People say, well, get out of Washington. I don't think all of Washington will go down, but I do think I am still in the range of the 9.0 earthquake. I don't know if you're some people are, I think it's, I know that a military member who is in charge of coordinating, FEMA and the military, said that the military believed this was already going to happen. So they know something. So that's my opinion on it. But as far as how to stop the dreams, maybe embrace them instead of try to stop them. Maybe try to make it a lucid dream.
I think that's why I'm calling you now, because I mean, I've been talking to a lot of my so-called friends out here. I call them acquaintances because I mean we're not on the same page, and it's kind of frustrating, you know. And I'm trying to get it out there, and that's why I've been calling and talking with you. Like, I need to get it out there some way, somehow. People need to be aware of this. I believe that our dreams is our soul's way of saying that, look, you need to pay attention to this because this event is going to happen. You need to be aware. I have had multiple dreams where in 6 months they have came true. And I can't explain it. I don't understand it, but I believe it wholeheartedly. I can tell you stuff, Marv, off air that would literally drop your jaw like you're a cartoon and your tongue rolls down the street. I can show you some stuff that will blow your mind. I am not joking, Marv. Like, this is serious. Like, I am deathly scared. My brother, he lives in Vegas, and so does my cousin. I want them out of there so bad. It scares me down to the core of my soul, and I'm trying to shake it so hard, and I don't understand why I can't shake this, but I'm trying to embrace it, and people are unaware of it. And I think it's very frustrating. Very, very frustrating.
Well, I
know you got to go, and I know I'm missing time, but like, I just feel this urge to tell as many people as possible about what's coming. I think, yes, there's going to be something happening, you know, with the military and the GOV and everything else, but I think something major else is coming that is life-altering and changing everything.
Well, I think the main thing that people think in the back of their heads is, what if she is right? And that's something you don't be dismissive of people's opinions. Well, you can dismiss them, but don't dismiss the person. Dismiss the opinion.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, so we are out of time. I do want to thank you for coming on. And again, I gave you my opinion, but it may not be right. I do wish, as far as your dreams go, I want to get that dream show with Jacob going. And if people don't like the dreams, they don't have to watch that episode. I do know it would be a really great show, and I think it would be extremely a really good show for some people. So, well, thank you so much for calling in, and I appreciate you, Lily, and thank you for being patient with our phone system.
Yeah, no problem, and thank you for having me on. And if you do make that show, I will definitely be calling. I can guarantee that, because I can tell you so many more.
Well, I think we would have more than a few callers. I think we would actually do like a 10 or 15 caller thing and just have Jacob hit them all up. He is really good at doing that. So I think you would definitely have no problem getting in on a show like that. I've been planning it for a long time. Thank you so much, Lily. You have a wonderful night, okay?
Thank you. You guys have a wonderful night, and thank you so much, and have a wonderful 4th of July.
All right. Bless you. Happy 4th of July as well. So, by the way, Jacob he can go into it. He's so knowledgeable about it. He can actually, by the way, somebody said that he shouted me out. I saw that, and we shout each other out every day at this point. Jacob is a real dude, but personally, I've told him dreams, and he breaks it down into, and then he guessed my dream. That was the scariest part. He goes, was there this? Was there that? Did you have water? And I said, yeah, it was up to my chest before I even got to that part. Just crazy stuff. All right, Dex, if you want to go over off-grid. And then, by the way, tonight, the show, the shoutro will be extended over onto Marfoogle Jams. If you haven't subscribed over there, if the show goes over 2 hours, it won't process correctly. So we have to cut it right there. So join us over on Marfoogle Jams or D-Live if you want to get the rest. Dex.
Yeah, so head over to marfooglenews.com, click on the thumbnail for the show, or open that description on YouTube and click on show notes. That'll take you to the website, the one Adam showed you at the beginning of the show. This is where you can find the link to go to the off-grid giveaway. You want to get that bag, so make sure you do it. There's like 5 days left. It's coming up. We'll be coming up on the day really soon. Of course, there's a long weekend coming up, so make sure, don't forget, at least get entered to win that. So also, while you're here on the website, you've got everything we we tried to cover. I know we didn't have enough time because we ran really long with Alaska Prepper, which was fantastic. But you can find the rest of the news, everything that we were going to cover here, as well as all of the overflow content. There's a lot on there too. So go there. You'll find that, as well as the caller information. And if you don't know Alaska Prepper's channel, although he's really easy to find, you can just type it in. He's also on the website in 2 different places there, so you can go find him if you're trying to find his channel. So make sure you check out marfooglenews.com.
And by the way, filibuster, President Beef backs filibuster change to restore the rights. Who called that? I mean, it's just simple. People are all freaking out, but watch. They can do things to where they'll just fix it right back up. Meanwhile, everybody is riled up and distracted, even though nothing's permanent there. It is planned out. All right, thank you guys. Thank you everybody that supported. Hopefully, if I'll probably try to shout out the last couple again. Cute Lashes, thank you for the support. JT, thank you for the support. Everybody over on DLive, Chewy Weather, Release the Quack, and Karen from Columbus, Nancy B. Wild, Kimbria, MLB59, Hot Sauce Jaws, Renegade PD, Vicky K, thank you so much. Thank you everybody. Vicky K, R. Tate, Stormblade, X69, Love Pugs, Alfina, thank you. I hope I got to everybody there. If I didn't, I'm sorry. Recalcitrant, thank you. J Bear, and everybody else. Love you guys. Thank you for joining us. If you really like this show, make sure to press that like button and make sure to let us know what we're doing right. We hope to expand very soon here, so thank you guys so much for all of your support. And, of course, be safe, be prepared, and Marf out. It's now time for the shoutro. It's not an outro. It's not a shout-out. It's a shoutro.